Hi, I'm Andrea and this is Vea Spazio Miniature. If anyone needed a 6mm game set in a distant future where tank, mech and remote piloted drones fight each other, Stratomini's got you covered. Today we are going to take a look at At War, the latest game produced by Stratominis and this time in collaboration with Robbie Jenkins, known author of Horizon Wars, game from which this one is inspired and uses some of the core mechanics. So if you are a veteran player of Horizon Wars, you shouldn't have any problem jumping straight into this game. Some personal impression first. First of all, the game has a very simple core mechanics that we are going to see together in a minute. But the game itself is not that simple and can certainly be considered crunchy. This is mostly due to the huge amount of special rules that are available for each unit in the game, plus again a huge amount of possible assets you can acquire before games. All of this makes the game a lot strategic and tactical, and you can put together detachment with different play styles. So if you were looking for a simple game, then probably Horizon Wars is more for you, but if you were looking for more details and in-depth planning combination, then At War is definitely for you. Second, the rulebook presents the player several options when it comes to the miniature you are going to use. There is a list at the end of the book called high-end elements divided by category, so walker, vehicles, aircraft and infantry, and this gives you plenty of choice and you can easily find corresponding miniatures on Stratomini's website. But the cool things about this game is that also allows players to use their own miniatures. Either those profiles are available or creating new custom profile giving us guidelines about how to do it. Let's quickly also talk about Stratomini's miniature quality. They are printed in resin and they have really good details. As usual with resin, you need to be careful while cleaning them as they can easily break. Also, they do not seem to require a lot of cleaning from what I've seen. So if you would like to play the game and don't have any miniatures, the starter set they have on their website are highly recommended and are a very great starting point. Okay, now I want to point out something I really love in this game, and is the extensive background and story you will find in the first 22 pages, but also everywhere in the book. While reading it, you feel like reading a novel. It's clear that there has been a lot of thinking behind it and the story is really cool. In a distant future, climate changes present us a totally different political and economical scenario from what we live in today, and megacorporations rules the world, each with their specific interests. Now, war is not fought physically anymore, but rather by using remotely piloted war machines. This is just a brief explanation, but due to the length of the story, I think we'll leave it to a different video in the future. Second aspect I most like in this rule set is how damage is handled. This comes back from Horizon Wars, so old player may already know, but basically every element has a damage bar that is filled every time the element is hit, and at the same time you reduce a stat of your choice, making the unit itself performing less efficiently in a certain category. You keep doing that until 2 stats or the defense stats is reduced to 0, which in that case the element is removed from play. Stats can be repaired through a special rule not available to all the units, while the damage bar can be altered and will be used as a reference for the roll to accomplish repairing, which means the more damage you have, the more difficult to repair will become. So it is important to plan wisely what stats to reduce to accomplish your strategy. Another good aspect of the rule is the campaign, because each scenario is connected depending on the outcome of the another scenario. This helps the narrative, which is always important when you choose to run a campaign. On the other hand, campaign progression is a bit limited, but adequate for this kind of game. So let's start with taking a look in more detail to the game mechanics. Every turn starts with the initiative phase, and the player with less action token normally owns the initiative and may decide who goes first, but the very first turn has a very interesting built-in mechanics where each player secretly pick a number of action token to spend, and whoever used most wins the initiative, but will have less action to spend in that turn. This game mechanic is very cool, but I haven't played enough games to know why it can be so important to win initiative on the first turn. I guess this is to force your opponent to deploy first and take advantage of that. Then after the initiative phase, there is an electronic warfare phase, which is also very important in this game. And it will require some extra thinking while building your forces before the game, as you get several interference tokens to spend in this phase depending of certain type of unit. Each player picks a frequency band 1 to 6 or 7 to 12 and secretly decides which number is their communication frequency for that turn. Then start placing interference token either to defend their frequency or to attack enemy player frequency. After both players revealed what they have picked, if they were able to find the right enemy frequency and have more interference token placed on it than the defender, they were able to jam communication. This gives a huge advantage because without communication you can't deploy reservists into the field and you will not be able to use special actions. We will see why these two things are important in a minute. Then the following phase is the action phase, where players alternate activating an element at a time, spending their 2 actions, or in some rare case 3 actions to do any of the following actions. Moving, before explaining the type of movement available in Hard War, I should mention that Arc of Vision and Arc of Fire are 2 very important things in the game, and normally they are 180 degrees. If an enemy shoots you from behind, you will not have a way of defending yourself, bringing to a catastrophic failure. That said, the first type of movement is cautious movement and allows the unit to move up to the M value in inches, but will grant 360 degrees arc of vision. The second type of movement is the standard one called patrol, where you will keep 180 degrees arc of vision and you move up to the double the M value of that unit. Lastly, not all but only certain type of unit benefit from the special rule rapid, which allow them to move 3 times the M value in inches, but only in straight line, changing their orientation only at the start or the end of the movement. Shooting, so this is another nice mechanic where you measure the distance from the shooter to the target, add the armor value or cover modifier, and that will be your target number to it. So you roll a number of dice equal to the F characteristics. At that point, if your opponent is within arc of vision, you can try to defend rolling a number of dice equal to their defense D characteristics, cancelling any result that are the same on the attacker dice pool. If the remaining attacker dice can be added to get equal or more than previous mentioned target number, it's a hit. As said, resolving damage is another cool mechanic of the game. You will fill the damage bar with a number of hits and reduce stats at your choice from the unit. If a 12 was rolled, it counts as an augmented dice, which means that you get an extra die to roll. Of course, rolling 12 on a defense roll cancel an attacker augmented dice, or if not present, add 1 more dice on the defender dice pool. Lastly, if you assign a double number to a hit while attacking, that hit will be a critical hit, which allows the shooter to pick which statistic to reduce while assigning damage. There are other special shoot actions like suppressive fire and area bombardment, which I will not go into details in this video. Another possible action is move and shoot, which means you can perform a patrol or cautious move and then shoot following all the previous rules, but the F characteristics is halved and rounded up. You can perform an aim and shoot, which requires 2 action tokens but will grant an additional +1 to the F characteristic. An important and strategic other action you can take is the guard action, which can be done as last action and basically puts your unit on all ready to shoot or charge while an enemy unit comes into line of sight. You can do nothing and stay in place. Aircraft have some exemption to this, but will not go into detail. And finally, the charge action. If the target of a charge doesn't have action tokens available and is not in guard, is considered a passive defender and will not cause damage, even if it wins the fight. The charging unit is allowed to make a cautious or patrol move to get in base contact, and both players roll a number of dice equal to their C stats with modifier, and the target number is the enemy's C stats plus armor. Equal number of dice between players cancel each other, and the player that gets more hits is the winner of the close combat and apply damage. After apply damage, the winner player may decide to push the opponent 1 inch, move away 1 inch, or remain locked in combat ready to strike again in the following action. Other than the described hit action, when 2 units are already engaged, the player can choose between several types of close combat action, which allow different outcomes, like pushing the other unit further away or running away further. There are also actions to trample, block, topple and more unit specific action that will not treat during this video. Getting in close combat in this game can be very bloody. Okay, there is a lot of special action player can take every turn, like relay coordinates, combat drops, embarking, disembarking unit, reloading and many other, but won't make sense to get into details of all the special rules in the book, as would simply make this video too long. But I want to point out that special rules is what make this game a bit crunchy, but also unique and very strategic, and they will give you a lot of thinking while building your force so that you get access to a specific strategy you may lack during the game. The turn then concludes with other two very quick phases called Situation Update and Turn Summary, which simply are cleaning the table from tokens and conditions that last until the end of the turn and check for victory condition. So a new turn begins. A game is normally played on a 3x3 foot for small forces or a 4x4 foot for standard forces and lasts 6 turns. There are 12 missions in the book, which gives a lot of variability, and as said, they can be linked in a campaign. There are a lot of terrain rules that allow an in-depth characterization of your battlefield. There are so many, I really doubt anyone could find a terrain in their collection which has not been covered by the rule. I would say that most of them are optional but can add a lot of fun, and you should at least consider to add to the table some rough and difficult terrain so that aircraft and hovercraft have more sense in the game. Another optional rule, but almost essential after few games to play the full game, are assets. Before the battle, you have a certain number of budget points that can be spent in assets. Those will give you extra ability during the game, and many of them are very important, like HQ assets that will give you more action tokens and interference tokens to use during the electronic warfare phase. And at this point, you should have got an impression why jamming communication and forcing the opponent not to use a special action can be crucial to win the battle. But again, there are many assets between which to choose wisely, as you don't get many budget points to spend. Lastly, to add some flavor to the game, you can also pick a background for your force, which will give you some extra assets or budget points, or you can pick a specific contract that, depending on which one you choose, will give you a different way to score more victory points during the game. So again, a lot of variability within the book for this game. So guys, I hope this video gave you a good idea about this game and if you might be interested in it. I would like to thank Strato Minis that sent me a few of their minis to try the game out and be able to review it. And I would also like to thank Wargame Print that sent me the file to print this awesome terrain you have seen during this video. In case you want to get a copy, I highly recommend them because they are cheap, sturdy and easy to assemble. You can print and assemble as many as you want. You can even store them flat in case you don't have much storage space. That's all for this video. If it was useful, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. That always really helps the channel growing and brings you new content for these and many other war games. And until next video, thanks for watching.